One thing he didn't mention, Jack, was Thomas Markle.
Yeah.
And this came in a week when it was all over the press. You know, we knew at that stage that Thomas was in intensive care. We knew that he had his leg amputated. I think we eventually got a photograph of Thomas, you know, looking better. We think he's moved into a general ward, and we were, again, same as we said last week, we wish him all the best and hope for a full recovery. But he didn't mention Thomas. Should he have done? I mean, what's the latest with Thomas at the moment? We're hearing that Meghan has reached out.
Yeah, so Meghan has now, she wrote a letter, and we have confirmation that that letter has been delivered to Thomas Markle in hospital in the Philippines. So we don't know what the letter says. It will be interesting to see whether any snippets of it leak out. Obviously, Thomas Markle handed her previous letter back in August 2018, handed that to the Mail, who published it, sparking a privacy lawsuit. So we're not going to expect to see like a full write-up of everything in it, but it'll be interesting to see whether some little snippets leak out. But really, in terms of Harry mentioning Thomas Markle, I think probably it's more Meghan's role too. I think it would be actually probably easier for Meghan to kind of record a video message for Thomas, put that out, and then Tom Markle Jr. could show that to their father. And that would kind of deal with it in a way. But I think Meghan's feelings about Thomas Markle are very complicated. And I would imagine there will be stuff in that letter that Meghan sent him that explains some of her difficult feelings, as well as her concern and hope that he makes a full recovery.
If you think back when King Charles announced that he had cancer, and it made the newspapers, and we splashed it, and it made world news, everybody realised that Charles had cancer. Harry was on a plane, I think within about 36 hours. He was back from Los Angeles, albeit he had 30 minutes with his father. But he rushed back to see his dad because he wanted to see his dad. It's been a week, been over a week. Meghan hasn't flown to Philippines. Should she have done?
This is such a complicated issue. I mean, flying to the Philippines to a hospital there is very different than flying to the protected area of a palace. But I also, I'm in two minds. Obviously, when there's serious family issues and health issues, I do think that other grievances should be dropped. But with this one, I suppose, what it boils down to is the fact that Meghan doesn't trust her father because he has spoken to the media so many times. So I suppose when you're looking at how she should best get in contact with him, of course, she would believe that anything she says to him would most likely end up in the press. I mean, not least of which is because I think the first person he told about his surgery was a Daily Mail reporter. So it's very complicated. I do think that, if you take it right back to the source of the issue when it all broke out in 2018, I think Thomas Markle, I have a lot of sympathy for him in that I think that he was thrust quite quickly into a position that he was very much not prepared for, which is global scrutiny, and he's someone who lives a very quiet life, and as we've seen, he's become more of a recluse in recent years. And so I do have a lot of sympathy for how all this has played out, and he just strikes me as someone who's just not known how to handle any of this, and it's quite sad, the long range repercussions of what's happened, which is that he's never met his grandchildren. It was heartbreaking hearing him say, I want to meet my two grandchildren before it's too late, before I die. And because that's what you're looking at. He's an 81-year-old man who's been in really ill health. So with that said, yes, I have great sympathy for Thomas Markle. I do think that it's really complicated with how Meghan can reach out to him because so much of it has landed in the press. But the idea that she wasn't able to call him does seem a little odd because he feels like a lot of people have his contact number. His number hasn't changed in 10 years. So even if she deleted it, he is able, a lot of people are able to contact him. A lot of journalists are able to contact him. It cannot be that difficult, particularly with a staff like Harry and Meghan have and the security that they have. Surely they could have deployed someone to just
I think she didn't want to, isn't it? She didn't want to call him.
Well, that was the reason she put out.
This is the key thing then, isn't it, really? Yeah,
she was worried it would be tape recorded and then wind up in the Mail.
And you're absolutely right. But what was being said and what was being reported was that she was attempting to find him. So whether or not that's true, the point is that line I think sits a little weirdly because it just cannot have been that difficult.
And I kind of think as well Meghan should just make peace with him like passing something on to the media and just be like, well, this is it, this is who he is now. But if she just looks inside herself and thinks, well, this is still the man who raised me, and she said she was a daddy's girl. She's not somebody who's come out and said he was a terrible father in childhood, that he was horrible or ruined her life. She said she was a daddy's girl. She loved him. They had a normal father-daughter relationship until the media got involved in 2018. That is Meghan's narrative of it. And if that's true, you should be able to look inside yourself and think whatever has happened since, I still want to get my message to him to let him know how I feel. And if it winds up in the mail on Sunday, it winds up in the mail on Sunday. Who cares?
Just send a get well soon card, and what's the worst that can happen if those notes are
exactly. And I think also record a video. Like if she just records a self-shot video and says, Thomas, I really hope that you get better soon, and that you get through this, and maybe she can accompany that with other efforts, but just do something where it's out there and it can be shown to him, and then she's kind of done it. And like the Markle family are incredibly messy. They really are. And it's not just Thomas. It's, Tom Jr. and Samantha Markle. They are a very messy bunch. But this is her family. And I have huge sympathy with Meghan. And actually, I think most people do, including some of her biggest detractors, actually have a lot of sympathy for her in relation to her relationship with her family. But it's totally possible that he's not going to be with us for that much longer, and so this is a shrinking opportunity. It's a window that is closing.
100%. I mean, I've no secret. I've met Thomas a couple of times and spoke to Thomas, and he is a warm, generous man. He's also stubborn, maybe like Harry and Meghan, but he would clearly love to have a relationship with his daughter and his grandchildren, and he definitely feels sad that he has this disappearance from, or this separation and distance from his daughter. But of course, people will say he hasn't behaved the best in the past.
No.
And he will probably continue not to behave the way that Meghan wants him to help. But the one thing, and he's a very proud man, a very talented man, great lighting engineer. He was actually, and he supported Meghan all the way through her childhood, which does seem to be forgotten at the
Paid for her education.
And she lived with him, I think, for 7 years.
Yeah. Parents had split.
That's all. I completely agree. I do think it's just so sad all the way around, but it is on Meghan now, particularly with his age and his health. But the fact that he has now tried to reach out and he's issuing public pleas, it is on her to make sure that message gets across, and it's not just attempts, but it's actual communication.
It might sound gross, but these are probably things that they'll be thinking about Montecito. Does it damage her brand in many ways to have Thomas Markle, to have this situation going on?
I was going to say this because I think we all relate to this as human beings, feeling sad about the fractured relationship with the family. But if you were going to even just get quite business clinical about it and talk about the PR of it, the reality is I found it very jarring watching her holiday special last week for a couple of reasons, but mostly because as I was watching it, she references so often these sorts of connections to family, and I think she talks about the passage of time with family and all these sorts of things. And as I was watching it, I thought it's odd to even reference it. It's okay to make your decisions about what you want to do and who you want to contact, but it's odd to be referencing that. And it came at the time, I think it was the same day he had the amputation surgery. Now, this was pre-recorded. I'm not pretending it's a live show and she's reacting to that, but it is jarring.
I think it was actually pre-recorded a year earlier because her dog's in it.
Yeah. Yes. But my point is, I don't think she received the news and then went and spoke about this. But with that said, it was jarring because it was that reminder. It just doesn't. I mean, optically, it just doesn't look good. It doesn't look good for Meghan that was playing out. That it's this very glossy show talking about family and the importance of connection, and then at the same time you've got Thomas Markle lying in a hospital bed in the Philippines begging to see his daughter. It was just on the PR level, it was bad, I think.